Hello viewers. Hello viewers. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you for those who are coming back, and for those who are new to the channel, thank you as well for tuning in. And if you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. Hit that notification bell so that when I post, you'll be the first person to know. In today's video, I'm going to talk to you about one of the most important services out there for children who are experiencing trafficking or exploitation. That's the Independent Child Trafficking Guardians, ICTG referrals. And in terms of exploring this topic, I'm just going to talk about who are the Independent Child Trafficking Guardians, what do they do, who makes the referral to them, how a referral is made in terms of steps of making a referral to them. I'm also going to look at what sort of support do they offer, and what you need to be mindful when it comes to making a referral to them. And also lastly, I'm going to touch a little bit on how the ICTG are supportive to professionals who are working with children where there are concerns around trafficking as well as exploitation. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. So talking about Independent Child Trafficking Guardians, this is a service which is a statutory provision according to Section 48 of the Modern Day Slavery Act of 2015. So it is a statutory service provided out there according to Section 48 of the Modern Slavery Act of 2015. So the purpose of the ICTG, I'm gonna use the abbreviation ICTG as going forward, but it stands for Independent Child Trafficking Guardians. They provide specialist support, independent support to children who are victims of trafficking as well as exploitation, or who are at risk of being trafficked in England and in Wales. In terms of Northern Ireland as well as Scotland, I don't know what provisions are there in place, but I'm sure there's something similar to this in terms of the way they support and work with children where there are concerns around trafficking or possible exploitation. So the ICTG service is designed to ensure that trafficked children or those who are at risk of being trafficked have access to an advocate. That's first and foremost. This advocate is there to provide them guidance, obviously advocacy and support to help them navigate, the complex child protection processes that kind of follow when concerns are like this are identified, as well as navigating the immigration route if that child is an unaccompanied asylum-seeking child or an unaccompanied minor. And also sometimes even supporting them in navigating the criminal justice system. As you know, it can be a maze in terms of children navigating that system really. So talking about this service, who makes a referral to the ICTG, and under what criteria do they make a referral? Just like the National Referral Mechanism, referrals to ICTG can be made by any professional working with a child where concerns around trafficking or exploitation have been raised, or where there is a suspicion that a child could be a victim of trafficking or exploitation. We are talking about social workers, we are talking about the police, we are talking about the local authority, for example, obviously children's services, and professionals from education, health professionals. We're talking about doctors, nurses, physiotherapists, whoever is working with children where there's suspicion that there could be trafficking or exploitation. We are talking about non-governmental organizations. We are also talking about immigration officers. We are talking about youth offending services. So all these professionals are able to make a referral to ICTG straight away. The next point is about the criteria for referral to ICTG. What is the criteria for referral to ICTG? Referral to ICTG should be made when there are reasonable grounds to suspect that a child is a victim of trafficking or could be a victim of trafficking, exploitation as well, including sexual exploitation, criminal exploitation, that's county lines, drug trafficking, all those kind of things. Criminal exploitation also where there is suspicion that adults are using children in committing offenses or in committing crimes as well, where there are concerns around forced labor or domestic servitude, where you suspect that a child, somebody who is possibly a child, is being used, as a domestic worker or something like that. There's also issues around organ harvesting, also concerns around forced marriage. In ICTG, referral can also be made. where there is concerns around modern day slavery indicators, where there are indicators like, for example, coercion, control, where passport has been taken away, this person is expected to be doing A, B, C, and D, where there is also restriction of movement and stuff like that. So ICTG referral is made for children who are below the age of, for children, up to 18 years. And sometimes it could also be made in situations where the suspicion of all these things that I spoke about, where we are also suspecting that the child has been separated from parents or usual caregivers and is uncertain immigration status in England or Wales. And also where there is concerns that the child could be involved in any criminal activity or behaviors linked to exploitation, where there is that suspicion or where there is evidence that that is going on, an ICTG referral can also be made or needs to be made in that situation. What are the steps to making a referral? First and foremost, obviously, you will know that you need to identify the concerns. You need to progress an initial assessment to determine whether grounds are made to make that referral. If you're not quite sure, have a consultation with your senior practitioner or your manager, and they will obviously guide you in terms of what you need to do. But one thing you need to know is, as a professional, you need to gather enough information to determine whether the child shows signs of being trafficked or exploited. That's number one. And where there are also modern slavery indicators, I spoke about restricted movement, I spoke about issues around coercion, signs of physical or emotional abuse. You have to assess that situation, where travel documents have been withdrawn until a person has done A, B, C, and D, all those kind of things. You need to be making that, initial identification and, initial referral. And then in terms of the referral process, you complete what we call the ICTG referral form, which is found online. If you go to if you go to gov.uk, you'll find the form there, or if you go to the Home Office website, you'll find the form. Some local authorities have got systems where you can click, and then that takes you straight to the link where you'll be able to complete that form straight away. The information which you need, obviously, is you need to be articulate in terms of the concerns which are there, the child's circumstances. You need to talk about the indicators of trafficking or exploitation that you have identified or that you have observed with that particular child. If there are any immediate safeguarding concerns, remember you need to follow your local protocol on how that child can be safeguarded. It doesn't necessarily mean that when you're done in ICTG referral and then you are done, that's it. If there are immediate safeguarding concerns or health concerns, follow your local protocol. Make sure that the child accesses medical help, and make sure that the child is seen as soon as possible, according to your local protocols, really. And then in terms of the once the referral has been made, they will obviously determine whether criteria is met, and what they will do is they will also allocate a direct worker to work with that particular young person, especially where the child is alone, there's no parental care, and also an advocacy worker will be appointed who will be advocating for that particular child. The ICTG will also build trust with the child, engage the child, explain their rights to them, options in a child-friendly manner, and they'll also provide emotional support to this particular child. They'll also ensure the child's views are included on all the work that's being done and in all the decisions that are being made. And they will be offering what we call ongoing advocacy and support. They will develop a safety plan with the young person, as well as whoever from the local authority is allocated to that particular young person. They will also ensure that the child receives appropriate care and protection, and they also act as monitors or advocates for the child to make sure that their rights are being, adhered to, or they are being upheld, something like that. And they are also there to support the child in legal and criminal proceedings that may follow, soon after, that referral has been made. And they will be there to attend any multi-agents meetings to represent the child's interest and to give advice and support to the professionals who are working with this young person. So a few things to be mindful when it comes to ICTG referral is issues around consent. A child's consent is not required for you to make a referral to ICTG, just like it is not required for you to make a referral to the National Referral Mechanism. A child's consent is not required for you to be making a referral to ICTG. However, the child should be informed of the decision to make a referral to ICTG in a way that they are able to understand in a child-friendly manner. That's key, and that's quite important. Point number 2 to be mindful is around confidentiality. Information must be handled sensitively and shared only on a need-to-know basis, and the child needs to be informed of this as well. The child's immigration status should not influence the decision around making a referral to ICTG, as well as decisions around their care and safeguarding and protection. So whether the child has got a valid immigration status or not, that shouldn't influence the decision around them being safeguarded. That's quite important. Point number 4, I spoke about the child's wishes and feelings. This is also important to make sure that they are included in all the decisions which are being made. However, we know that the child's best interest takes precedence over their wishes and feelings sometimes, because sometimes their wishes and feelings may not necessarily be in tandem with what is in their best interest. So as a social worker or as somebody working with the child in this situation, you need to be mindful about that. Their voice should be central to the process, and ICTG must ensure that the child understands their rights and is empowered to express their views. And last but not least, in terms of things to be mindful of, is issues around cultural sensitivity. Be aware of the child's background and potential trauma, and there's no need to re-traumatize the child. Use professional interpreters if required, and making sure this will also help you to make sure that the child fully understands what it is that you are talking about. So that's really key, and that's very, very important. And then coming on to possible outcomes after the referral, there is obviously a possible outcome, which is that the child may continue to receive ongoing support from ICTG, and if it is confirmed that the child is a victim or could be a victim of trafficking, and ICTG will help coordinate the care and ensure that the child's needs are met. We are talking about issues around housing, education, health, making sure that they are properly taken care of, really. ICTG will also help the child access immigration and asylum support, including legal advice if required. And when there is no evidence of trafficking, the child may still be supported by other safeguarding protocols which are there local to your local authority. Like, for example, the child can continue to be open to children's social care under maybe a child protection plan or a child in need plan. It depends with whatever thresholds you are using in your local authority. But ICTG may continue to provide advocacy if vulnerabilities are identified that they are remaining in place. And then on the side of the police, criminal investigation can still continue. It doesn't necessarily mean that they will prosecute the child or they will criminalize the child, but the investigations will continue for them to get to the bottom of what is exactly is going on. The police may they may continue with the investigation and prosecute the offenders who are, obviously exploiting or who may have trafficked this particular child or young person. The ICTG can also still support the child during any police interviews or court proceedings that may happen. So that support doesn't stop only because grounds have not been established or identified, really. And in terms of how ICTG helps the child, I spoke about direct support and advocacy. That's needs to be ICTG needs to become the consistent point of contact for the child, helping them to navigate this complex maze or this complex system, really. And they will also, obviously, like I said earlier on, they will receive emotional and psycho-emotional support and even practical guidance as they navigate the legal system. And the ICTG will also ensure that the child's voice is paramount or is heard in all decision making. And they will also offer support to the professionals in terms of safeguarding and protection of this child. And they also offer, support with, immigration and legal advice and access to healthcare and all that. So in terms of how ICTG helps professionals, I spoke about expert guidance and insight. There is issues around reduction of professional anxiety and risk. What do I mean by this? Sometimes professionals from, professionals from ICTG, they are pros in this kind of work. They help professionals make informed decisions based on legal as well as police frameworks, which they are quite fully aware of. And sometimes professionals are unsure about the indicators of trafficking. So at ICTG Guardians, they are there to clarify the situations and also guide professionals accordingly. And also they can be part of the multi-agents coordination of what's happening. So if you have got a meeting, child need meeting, whatever meeting that you have, you can actually invite them and they'll be able to attend. As long as you have had the conversation with them prior to the meeting, they know what the case is all about and they are aware of a referral being made to them. And they can also ensure a joined up response in terms of the work that we do with children, and young persons who can be entangled in such situations, really. They can also act as a link between the different agencies, reducing gaps and conflicts in care provision, making sure that it's done in a seamless manner, really. And they are also there to advocate for reduced criminalization, ensuring that there is fair justice to the child, and due process is being taken when it comes to to these children who are in this kind of a situation. So an example or a scenario that I can talk about where an ICTG referral can be made would be, for example, we've got a 14-year-old girl from, say, country X, who is found working in a nail bar under suspicious conditions. She shows signs of physical abuse and avoids eye contact when questioned. And a social worker in this instance is suspecting that there is trafficking, and a referral has been made to both NRM and to ICTG service. So the ICTG worker can be there to work with this young person. So I'm just giving an example of a scenario of a situation where an ICTG referral can actually be made. And I hope with these few nuggets, if somebody has learned a thing or two from this video. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe, hit that notification bell so that when I post, you'll be the first person to know. And I hope you have grasped something. Thank you for watching. Bye-bye.